News Unpeeled at courtesy of 3dprint.com. And today we've got some news items for you. First, there's news that Margarita San Andres, who's a leading light in the art history kind of chemical world, uses like her background in chemistry and the hard sciences to shine a light on art world, has looked at 3D printing. So more and more artists are turning to 3D printing to make artworks. And she wanted to know, how are these works going to survive? What's going to happen to them? How are they going to degrade? So she looked at FDM, or material extrusion, and she compared PLA and ABS filaments and PLA and ABS printed structures, and she looked at their aging, and she put them in an accelerated aging process, um, and just trying to see how these things would age during UV degradation, other things. Um, so there were a few differences between the filament and the 3D printed part, which is good. Um, in her case, she found out that the PLA samples actually did better. They had fewer changes over time during this accelerated uh, um, aging process as compared to the ABS samples, which may be surprising. Now, there's a caveat there, of course, that different materials could have different production processes, even, and could even have different additives in them. So there could be a little bit of interference there, but generally that's a good sign. And I think it's wonderful that work like this is occurring in the first place. Now, there are a lot of uh, issues with 3D printed art, and we need to know that in order to preserve it. Now, there's other issues that are out of scope for her research, which also would be very exciting if somebody else looked at them. Like, for example, if you're trying to recreate an artwork, how do we do this? Do we preserve 3D printers? If we have different slicing software, different authoring software, the part actually may look differently. We may be able to get more rounded curves and stuff like that. We might actually then move away from the original part to a new version. Now, what's then the work? So I think this is an area very, very ripe for exploration. I'm really glad that somebody of her caliber is doing research in this area, and I think more people need to do this because there's a lot of issues with aging and degradation, not only through the UV, but also the material properties of 3D printed parts change over time as well significantly. And this is different depending on the processes. So she's looked at material extrusion and FDM, and I hope that more people look at different types of processes and try to figure out how museums can conserve the art of the future. The next news item and it comes to us from India, and that is the Military Engineering Services, or MES, of the Indian Army, has worked with MyCall or MICOB or MICOB, which is a private Indian company specialized in 3D printing of homes and construction. And they made a two-story structure, ground floor and a first floor. It took them 20 or 12 weeks, and it's a 71 square meter structure. They 3D printed the foundation as well as walls and other surfaces. And what I do like about this is apparently the dwelling complies with the Zone 3 earthquake specifications, which were needed for that area. So another military is working on 3D printing in construction. We've seen so far the U.S. military do a lot of work here. Now the Indian military is waking up to the potential as well. Now, of course, at the moment, this is a dwelling unit, kind of like an officer's quarters kind of thing, or a soldier's quarters kind of thing. But one could imagine in the future they would look more bunkers or structures in really remote areas and stuff like that. So, so far the 3D printed construction thing has been focused a lot on homes. But I think there's a military and also a kind of like austere place, kind of remote oil and gas kind of potential as well to build structures in remote areas. So watch this space, and we'll expect that to expand over time. So thank you very much. That was the news for today. My name is Joris Peels, and this is another edition of 3D Printing News Unpeeled. Have a great day.